All right, good morning, everybody. No, I'm having a bit of an earlier video than what I usually do, but got a lot to do today. And of course, today is the day that everybody has essentially been anticipating, with it being the beginning of the NBA playoffs. There's 4 games going on today. I know I was, of course, initially planning on making 8 separate videos. I've just had a very busy week and weekend with academics, and have a little bit more time after this upcoming Monday. But unfortunately, to just not have the time to make those other videos. So before playoff action gets started today, and before I have to go do something this morning and early afternoon, I'm going to give my series predictions for the 4 other series that I did not make a prediction on. So I have the 4 other videos already uploaded on my channel, and there I took a look at the Rockets and the Timberwolves. I picked the Rockets in 5 in that series. Also the Warriors and the Spurs, which is a 2-7 out west, and that one I picked Golden State in 6. The Celtics and the Bucks, a 2-7 out east in that series. I picked Boston in 7, and then the Toronto and Washington 1-8 matchup that has game 1 today, and for that game I had picked Toronto in 6. So we're going to go briefly a little bit more 76ers, who are the 3 seed. They finished 52-30, going up against the 44-38 Miami Heat, who actually ended up being Southeast Division champions. This will be a really entertaining series. Of course, Philadelphia has attracted a lot of headlines throughout the latter part of the season for what they've been able to do, most notably winning 16 games in a row at the end of the year, which truly is incredible. I mean, this is a team that was expected by many, including myself, to get to the postseason, but I had them as a 7 or an 8, and I feel like most people did as well. And that is what they looked like for most of the year, and then just got hot in the second half. And this is without Joel Embiid. They literally did not miss a beat. And now they're going into what will be a really entertaining series, I think mostly because the Heat have a really intriguing identity and an amazing coach. Now, they will not have Joel Embiid for game 1, and they're not entirely sure if they're going to have JJ Redick, although I would assume that he would be available. He was dealing with some lower back tightness this week. So, I mean, this is a roster that, even without Joel Embiid, has a lot going on. You have Robert Covington, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the NBA, just somebody that's an incredible defender and a high volume and decently high efficiency 3-point shooter. You have Ben Simmons, who may very well be the rookie of the year. I don't think he should be. But at the same time, he has had just such an incredible season and is a jump shot shy of being the second coming of LeBron James for sure. And then, look at past JJ Redick, getting Markelle Fultz back, getting him into the rhythm of everything. 2 big bench pieces in Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova. Second-year player Dario Saric, who has had a pretty solid year. TJ McConnell has really fit in off the bench for them. They do have a complete team, and I think Brett Brown, who the Sixers had a lot of faith in to just trust him and be the guy to go on, has really been able to make this team a lot better than a lot of people thought they would be, a whole lot quicker. They lead the NBA in rebounds, or 2nd in assists, or 7th in steals, or 9th in blocks, and they're 7th in points a game, and they're 4th in defensive ratings. So they really do kind of give you the best of both worlds in that regard, in direct comparison with the Miami Heat, that are not a great offensive team, 23rd in points a game, 22nd in offensive rating, but they are good defensively, 4th in opponents' points per game, and 7th in defensive rating. This is a team that really has a roster that seems like they're not as good as a playoff team should be, but they have certainly done what they needed to do to get to the playoffs. And I think such a big part of that is, of course, what Erik Spoelstra has been able to do with this team. Again, they had a few big winning streaks throughout the year, and they've gotten really good contributions from their all-star Goran Dragic, having Justice Winslow back for a full season. Josh Richardson has really had a good year. They've had a lot of guys contribute a lot more than what was initially expected, I think, especially when looking at Wayne Ellington, who had a career year, getting, the rookie contribution out of Bam Adebayo, what James Johnson has brought to the table, what offseason signing Kelly Olynyk has been able to do for that bench. And of course, the trade deadline acquisition of Dwayne Wade, and he really may become an X factor in this series. Once it gets late in games, you know who's going to have the ball in his hands. So that is, of course, really exciting to look at from that perspective. And this is a team that isn't really that great offensively, but they certainly have a lot to offer on the defensive end. They have an outstanding coach. I think it'll be a great series. I think Philadelphia will start to be taken out of the rhythm a little bit. I don't think it'll matter completely, though. I have the Sixers in 6 in that one. Then the other ones in the Western Conference, I guess I'll go to. The other one that goes on tonight, the Trailblazers and the Pelicans. That will be what I think may be the most exciting matchup of the first round. I mean, this is a series as two teams that really, defied the odds going into the year. Portland was looked at by many to be a good team. Nobody thought that they'd be this good. And Damian Lillard having a year to where you could really argue that he's first team All-NBA. And I mean, their defense after last year, it was their offense that was really good, and their defense that couldn't really pick it up. This year, 5th in opponents' points per game, 8th in defensive rating, still middle of the pack offensively, and they still have arguably the most dynamic backcourt in the league, short of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. You could certainly put them up there with Lowry, DeRozan, and Bradley Beal and John Wall. And then you add on what Jusuf Nurkic has been able to bring to the table, getting his first full year in Portland. Al-Farouq Aminu has been a big piece, and their bench, I think, is extremely underrated, going from Shabazz Napier, who's one of the better backup point guards, to Pat Connaughton, to Zach Collins, guys that have the ability to hit outside shots and to keep things going, and then you can keep one of Lillard or McCollum on the floor to keep up the pace there. And then that's without mentioning Ed Davis, who's one of the best rebounders in basketball. And that explains why this team is 3rd in total rebounds. And they're also 7th in blocks, but the problem is they're 30th in assists. So you're going to need to see more playmaking. It is a lot of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum isolation. And when it's not, it's running plays into the paint for Jusuf Nurkic, or generating an outside shot for one of their bench players, or for one of each other between Lillard and McCollum. And I think Terry Stotts has done an excellent job with, making that team who they are. And then the other end, they'll be playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who really look to be a sure bet for the playoffs with DeMarcus Cousins. And of course, he suffers a ruptured left Achilles tendon, misses the rest of the year, and then Anthony Davis was just handed the keys and then did everything he needed to do. This is a team that plays with the highest pace in the NBA. They're 3rd in points per game, despite just being 10th in offensive rating. So they're not quite as efficient, and they're really not good defensively. 29th in opponents' points per game, but they are 14th in defensive rating. They do have a few defensive stars on this team. Of course, Anthony Davis, and what Rajon Rondo offers. I think the addition of Emeka Okafor helped in that sense, as far as having a rim protector. And then in the sense of an on-ball defender, Jrue Holiday has had one of his better seasons in that regard. So they will be able to keep up with Portland there. And they, as good as Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are, New Orleans will have the benefit of having the best player on the floor on their team. And Anthony Davis is going to be able to take over. And that's why I think it'll be particularly exciting about the series, is we're going to see superstars duel at the end of games, often likely. So I think this will be incredibly exciting. New Orleans near the top in a lot of these categories: 2nd in field goal percentage, 3rd in field goal attempt, 2nd in field goals made, and they're 2nd in 2-pointers and 6th in 2-pointers attempted. That makes sense. 10th in rebounds, 3rd in assists. So, that is a big thing to look out for, the impact of Rajon Rondo and how he's going to be able to generate and run an offense in a way that Portland isn't quite capable of doing. They're also 8th in steals and 3rd in blocks, thanks to Anthony Davis. So I think this will be a really close series. And I think it'll be maybe the most exciting of all the first round series. I do think Portland maybe got too hot a bit too early. I think this New Orleans team has a great identity to them. I think Rajon Rondo is really going to be an X factor, and I think you're really going to see MVP level performances out of Anthony Davis. I'm feeling the Pelicans in 7 on that one. And then there's 2 more series, Cavs and the Pacers. I will be attending game 3 of this series, so that is very exciting. And, the Cavaliers, a team that, of course, had the overhaul in the middle of the season, underwhelming for sure at 50-32, although that is only one game below what they finished last year. And everybody knows what they can bring to the table offensively, 5th in points per game and offensive rating, but 26th in opponents' points per game and 29th in defensive rating. They've really, really struggled defensively all season long, and that has been a big problem for this team. I think there's been, a lot of uncertainty about how they're going to handle all of this coming into the playoffs. So, they are going to have Tristan Thompson. They are going to have Rodney Hood. Not sure if they're going to have Kyle Korver yet for game one. But this is a team that just, even after the overhaul, still doesn't have a lot defensively. And I think they can very well go to the finals. And I think with what LeBron James has done this season, you cannot count anything out because, he's arguably, I don't even know if I want to say arguably, I really do think he's just had the best season of his career. And I've talked about that at length several times. But, you go down the line, this team obviously makes a lot of threes. They're 3rd in three-pointers made, 5th in attempts, and 6th in percentage. And they're 5th in two-pointer percentage. They get to the line a decent amount, 6th in free throws and 9th in free throws attempted. They're not really good at rebounding, 23rd there. They're 28th in shots blocked and 5th in points. And then when you compare that to what the Indiana Pacers bring to the table, who have such an incredible coach in Nate McMillan, who was able to get them to a better record without Paul George. And this is a team that is kind of middle in the pack of both, 11th in offensive rating, 13th in defensive rating. They're able to give you a little bit of the best of both worlds. They're going to have Victor Oladipo for game one, and he has really been the difference-making star on that team. But this is a team that is quietly complete. I think when you look at Miles Turner, who's one of the better young big men in the game, Thaddeus Young, his experience as a stretch four on the floor to be able to kind of get guys like Miles Turner, into that rhythm as he's going into another postseason. A good bench that has guys like Corey Joseph and Joe Young and Domantas Sabonis and Lance Stevenson, Darren Collison, who really complements it backcourt well, Bojan Bogdanovic, an outstanding three-point shooter. There's a lot to like about this team. They're really efficient with two-point shots, 4th in two-pointers and 4th two-pointers attempted. They're 3rd in steals. They definitely struggle with rebounds and assists, but they've also played Cleveland well. They have a 3-1 record against them this year. But I think, with playoff time, I really do think the switch might be flipped for Cleveland. I think Indiana's going to have a tough time with LeBron James and the Cavaliers. I have Cleveland in 5 in that one. And then with the final matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Utah Jazz, the 4-5 out west, that will be also, I think, one of the most intriguing series. Because these two teams are both really, really unique. They're both really, really good defensively. The Thunder fell off a bit defensively after the loss of Andre Robertson, but still finished 10th in opponents' points per game and 9th in defensive rating, while actually eventually finishing 7th in offensive rating, getting a lot of help from what they got out of Corey Brewer. They don't know if they're going to have Alex Abrinas ready for tomorrow night's game one. But, of course, this is a team that they showed flashes of brilliance throughout the year. They did have one 8-game winning streak where really looked like they were coming together. They had their stretches, but they were never really able to put that together throughout a really long, consistent period of time. But I think with the amount of experience that this team has, on top of the fact that, they're going to benefit from the game slowing down, I think that they're one of the tougher matchups you could have, especially when you're just faced with Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, and Russell Westbrook. So, when you look at what this team specifically brings to the table, they get to the line a lot, but they're 29th in free throw percentage. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the league, mostly thanks to guys like Russell Westbrook and Steven Adams. So they're 1st in steals, thanks to Russell Westbrook and Paul George, but they're 28th in assists because they essentially all come from Russell Westbrook. So that's kind of the complexion of this team. It's still very much centered around Russ, but they have a lot to offer on both ends of the floor. And then comparing that to Utah, who may have the coach of the year in Quinn Snyder, of course, nothing overwhelming offensively, but they're 2nd in both opponents' points per game and defensive rating. They have, one of the most aggressive defenses in the league. And I mean, you look at just the defensively able players. It's not just Rudy Gobert, who may be the best in the league at that. It's looking at Ricky Rubio, who's one of the best on-ball defending guards in the NBA, and the kind of role that he plays on that team. And then even looking further, Derek Favors, who has been one of the better defensive big men, the acquisition of Jay Crowder and the difference that meant. And then, of course, with Donovan Mitchell being the first rookie to lead his team in scoring since Carmelo Anthony back in 2004. I really do like this team, and I like how they were able to turn it around despite all the injuries that they dealt with, and then somehow were able to sneak away with a 5 seed in the Western Conference, the same one that they had last year. And, a 48-34 record, only finishing 3 games below what they were last year when they had Gordon Hayward and when they had a healthy Rudy Gobert the entire season. So I do like this team. I think when you specifically look at what they bring to the table, they're really good at limiting scoring, rebounds, and passing. So, I mean, that's obviously going to prevent a challenge. The Thunder are going to have to find a way to combat Rudy Gobert, but if anybody is able to do it, it is Steven Adams. So, I mean, I really like this series. I think it's going to be incredibly exciting, but I think this is really what Oklahoma City's been preparing for, and I know that they really are hungry for a shot at either the Rockets or the Warriors. So I think that, they're going to have enough to flip the switch, even though they have been playing pretty good basketball overall as of late, to be able to get through the Utah Jazz, take advantage of their home court, as it is one of the most electric places to play in come playoff time, and be able to take out a series win. I got the Thunder in 6 in that one. But that is all I have for you today. Of course, playoffs start at 2 p.m. I am so freaking excited. Spurs Warriors, followed by Wizards Raptors. That's the second game. Heat Sixers following that, and then game 1 of Pelicans Blazers after that, so which would be really, really exciting stuff. But yeah, those are the remainders of my playoff predictions. This has been our episode of Pick and Pop with Peter Marzano. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy some playoff basketball.